Pre-stressed concrete pylons weighing 15 tonnes were pushed from one location to another. Cars were blown about, beaten and battered. Shrapnel weighing from hundreds of pounds down to housing bricks rained like confetti, and sheets of roofing iron scythed through the sky after being torn from roofs and shed walls. In many areas, the destruction...
I remember sort of waking up in the morning and there was this kind of eerie green look around and just phenomenal noise, and all of a sudden all the windows blew wide open and rain was coming inside, and I had no idea what was going on. I've got casement windows and we're trying to hold them closed to prevent stuff from flying around, and we just went into the hallway to keep away from the windows in case of debris. And all of a sudden it was over. It was kind of start, finish, no idea what went on. And we live on a main street and all the power lines were down and there was just debris everywhere. So it was just a really surreal experience. I wasn't even aware of the fact that tornadoes could hit Townsville. It was something kind of out of my scope or understanding.
So I've had about 7 experiences with cyclones. Charlie, Avu, Joy, Larry, quite a few others. We had a lot of flooding, infrastructure damage, so buildings that were damaged from the winds and things like that. We lost power for a considerable amount of time.
The eye went straight over our house, and our house itself, the actual house roof, was within 20 metres of the centre of the eye. Cyclone rated obviously, but on 4 occasions it shook. The pressure actually split into your eardrums and make your eardrums like a knife sharp pain in your eardrums. But there's another sound that we could hear because we didn't have any windows left in the lounge room. They were gone. Like that, but really loud.
We tried to keep calm, but what was the use? Everything was coming at us. We tried to hold windows in, and just as I went to walk away, the wall caved in. It was only by inches. I had everything so lovely for Christmas, but never mind, we'll start again.
I live in Vincent, so there are a lot of older houses, so pre-cyclone condition standards. So the house behind me lost its roof. We ended up with our next door neighbour's whirlybird. My kids' trampoline was completely destroyed. Fences down. Most of it was fairly superficial, but there were houses in suburbs away from us that were completely destroyed, uninhabitable. We were probably just on the cusp of it, on the very edge, so the winds, they've done some of the testing and that the winds weren't as bad where we were, but it's significant enough that road signs were knocked down and the fences and that were completely destroyed. And probably the most frustrating thing is most of Townsville didn't know about it. We're oblivious to it, and when they say, well, we've gone through this tornado, they're just looking at, yeah, what tornado?
6 days or 7 days we lost power, and unfortunately we'd stocked up a lot of frozen veggies and goods in our freezer. I had 2 or 3 freezers going at the time. Once
the power was out, you obviously eat the perishables in the freezer first, and I've always got cold water bottles which are frozen, which keeps the freezer colder for longer and that sort of stuff, so we just ate all the really expensive meats first.
And because a lot of the stores were also closed down for the same reason, accessing fresh food and things like that was a challenge, but you just make do with what you've got and get through as best you can.
Basically we just set up barbecues out the front and everyone sort of joined in and brought what they had before it went off, and we sort of cooked that up and cooked this up and cooked that up.
It's really hot after a cyclone. The heat waves tend to happen because you've got all that humidity, you've got all that water, and if it's not raining, and we didn't have any rain after Yasi, it's just really stinky hot. Houses aren't built with the same air circulation and ventilation as they once did. You know, windows aren't designed to open anymore because we have air conditioning. So it got really stuffy and really hard, and you couldn't escape from it, and there was nowhere you could go, and there was no electricity. So that became a real problem. How do you manage that heat stress in that sort of situation? How do you get out and avoid it was quite difficult. And I wasn't quite prepared for it, particularly at night time with the kids getting to sleep. So it got so bad I actually went to my work and I slept at my work office for 2 nights.
Occasionally in the tropics where you've got lots of moisture in the air during the summer, you do get you get these extreme events occasionally, a bullseyes, and it was our turn. The water level actually came up very quickly, that rain between 6 and 9 in the evening was enough to put water in a lot of the houses in town, and the rest of the rain during the night just kept them up, just kept the level up. It's certainly unusual to hit a populated centre. That's to hit one of the major centres. That's the unusual part about it. You get these events, but normally they'll occur in somewhere where it doesn't cause as much trouble.
As the damage was assessed, amazing tales of survival emerged. It was also the time to start planning the massive clean-up.
And as I say to many people that move into the area, if you want to know what the people of Mulgrew are like, wait till you get a major disaster and watch how they all pull together. Irrespective of who they are, black, white, brindle, whatever, they're there.
It's really interesting that locals, how they all band together very quickly and start clearing the roads. So I would say the roads were clear by tractors and things within a few hours, enough that you could get emergency vehicles in.
Our people are trained to respond to these sort of emergencies. As I said, there's 73 of them in the field. Some of our own volunteers have even lost their own properties, but still they continue to volunteer.
There's certain triggers for storm season, like the wet season, which I'd do the yard clean-up and that sort of stuff, but this kind of event was one of those sorts of things. Well, you don't know when it's going to happen. And I had sheets on the line, I had stuff out, and so the trampoline was completely destroyed. If those sorts of things were better secured or put away, I probably wouldn't have had as much damage to my house. Always be aware of what's around and minimise, if you can, what's in your yard.
Keeping a major part of your food supply ready, in a vehicle ready to go. Clothes, emergency documents, all sealed in boxes, ready to go. Have them in the car, make sure you fuel in the car, make sure you've got gas for the barbecues, etc, etc. Fill your bath up with water. Even the very basic things of just flushing your toilet.
Going to places like the Townsville website, the disaster dashboard, to just make sure you're all ready for whatever is about to occur. Make sure you've got your kits together, that you understand your evacuation plans, that you know where you're going and when you need to go.
Get those packs ready, it's really important. It makes you feel much more confident in the end. Even if you overplan, it doesn't matter. You know, just getting those plans ready. There's practical things that you need to remember to do. So remembering what do you need to do and looking at, disaster management sites such as the Townsville City Council. Making sure you've got money. Hey, because nothing's going to work. If you've lost power, you need to have cash. You really do. If you've got the capacity to charge your phones up or get one of those old-fashioned telephones as well, it just keeps you connected for that little bit more time.
Knowing that you can go to public websites and find that information. Obviously council is a good resource as well, but there are other, like your BOM, your Bureau of Meteorology is also a good resource to find out information. A lot of your social media platforms is really useful. What that does is it allows that information to be in spaces that young people are more likely to use in the first place. I think it's also about being peer-led, so other young people talking to other young people about what they've done and how they've created their emergency evacuation plans and things like that.
Talk about it. Having those conversations with people. What if a disaster happened? What would we do? Have that discussion. If something happens, if I'm at school when a disaster hits, what happens? So people need to make disasters part of their everyday thinking.
I ended up getting a little tattoo, and that just reminds me to just be brave in times of when I feel a bit scared.
I guess if you summed it up in a nutshell, what you should be doing, if you live in a community, it's important. If you're part and parcel of the community, you've got to be involved. There's an old adage, and it's stood for a lot of years. If you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. That's something everyone should be living with, especially during the times of cyclones. I mean, there's always room for improvement, always room for improvement. Never ever take it as it's not going to happen, because that's when it's going to happen.